What's going on, Bulls Nation? Welcome in to CHGO Bulls podcast presented to you by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download their app and use promo code CHGO when you sign up. I'm Peck. You can follow me on Twitter at Bulls_Peck. My guys, Big Dave at BAWL Sports and Mark K, MK Hoops on Twitter. Our pal producer Joey hanging out in the background. What's the album, Dave?
That is Anderson .Paak, who I keep telling you about, Matt. That's Anderson .Paak in Knowledge. That is No Worries. There's No Worries. That's just another side group he has. This album came out a few years back. It is really, really great. Really, really incredible. You'll never hear it, but it's really great and it's really incredible and awesome. And I suggest people pick it up. Their new album drops this year. Yes, correct. Correct, Joey. Yes, Lord. Yes, he understands.
Do you listen to it when you are in the mood of having no worries, or do you listen to it when you are being bogged down by worries and want to put your mind at ease?
That is a great question, Matt. I listen to it whenever I'm feeling anything. Like, it works in any time. Like, if you have no worries, listen to it. If you've got a lot of worries, listen to it, because it will, help you have no worries. So, no, it's a great question. It's a great question.
I like it.
I have no idea who these people are.
I understand, Mark K. You're in the same boat with Matt. I put you in that same boat.
We're vibing on a similar level on that level.
Yeah. I don't try to bombard you with it. You know what I'm saying? I don't, what I mean? I just show it to you, let you look at it, and keep it moving. Matt tries to dip his foot in every once in a while, because that's just who he is. You know what I'm saying? It's just who Matt is. But yeah, man. But I understand. Trust me, I get it. All right.
If anyone's dipping their feet in anything, it's the foot guy on our CHGO Bulls shows. It's Mark. Mark's the foot guy.
Why you say that? That's going to give him ideas. Yeah, that just gives him ideas. Don't say these things to him. It doesn't help.
Well, I mean, not if I'm going to be known as the foot guy. Maybe I'll what's the name? I'll rethink my position on this whole thing. Like, if you're going to call me the foot guy, I'm not going to do it again.
I mean, I feel like you did that to yourself, Mark. How are you? We haven't chatted with you since the holidays.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's been 10 days, 7 days, something like that. Yeah, I'm okay, guys. I'm back from my trip away for a little bit. So good to see you all. Hope you have both had a good and fun Christmas or holidays, whatever you celebrate, and with your family and friends. So, and obviously to the listeners as well. Hopefully everyone's safe and well and enjoying the festive times here. So yeah, no, I've been good. It's been good. Getting hot and warm here, unfortunately. So I'm glad we're recording this in the morning my time. That way, because I can crank up the AC later on and not interfere with the the audio quality. But I'm good. I'm happy to be talking Bulls with you guys again. Having said that,
yeah, don't you
can I just say I am now the lesser Mark? Yeah, I hate summer. I'm a winter guy. But can I just say I am now the lesser Mark of CHGO Bulls, because Mark Carman did a fantastic job while I was out as well. So and obviously whilst Will was out as well. So shout out to Mark Carman, who is now the superior Mark on CHGO Bulls.
The superior Mark. I didn't know this was a competition. I like this. All right.
Well, it's not a competition. He's firmly better. All right.
We'll keep you around.
That cannot be true, because I heard Carm tell us on postgame last night that he thinks Grayson Allen is a nice guy. So that one take alone just bumps Carm all the way down to the bottom of the barrel as far as people who talk about the Bulls. Get out of here with that. Carm.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair rebuttal. You won't be hearing that nonsense from me, I suppose.
All right, Bulls are off today, but we are here with y'all, Bulls Nation. Wanted to talk about a few things. Later on in today's show, we're going to take a closer look at this Bulls win-loss record against quality opponents and lesser opponents, because it's starting to drive us crazy. But before that, Big Dave, I know that you wanted to dive a little further into Zach LaVine's shot action and what he's doing on the ball and off the ball.
Yeah, Mark, you probably don't. Well, obviously, you're not privy to this because you don't watch the games with us. But one of the things I continue to harass Matt with is Zach LaVine catching and shooting the basketball from three. It just bothers me to no end that he doesn't do it more. I understand why. Not having a point guard there, to facilitate and to find him open to get him the ball, like Lonzo did a lot of the times last year. I get it. I trust me. I understand it. But I really think things need to be drawn up for him to have more catch and shoot shots. And I'm just specifically right now talking about the 3-point shooting. That's all I want to get into because the Bulls struggle with that. And I'm trying to find it wherever I can. And Zach is a really, really solid, really, really good 3-point shooter, but he's even better when he's doing the catch and shoot. So I had Joey make up a graphic. Joey, can you put up a graphic, please? Either one you want to put up, sir. I'll work with whatever you like to show. First of all, that's called Catch a Fire, Joey. That's not catching fire. That's Catch a Fire. That's how I wrote it in there. The pull, and that's a Bob Marley album. It's a Marley album, by the way. So I wanted to show the difference between the two that he does the most, which are pull-ups and which are the catch and shoot. Those are the two that he really does the most. You saw the frequency with it. He more frequents pull-ups with the 21%. The attempts slightly a little bit more with 3.8 as compared to 3.6. But the biggest thing, put that back up there, please, Joey. The biggest thing is the percentage. Look at the 3-point percentage. 32% on the pull-up, damn near 44% from three when he's on the catch and shoot. When he does the catch and shoot, it's so effortless. It's so smooth. There's no real fade. Zach has a tendency to kind of catch it and fade for some reason or another. He's done that the amount of times he's been here. He like catching and he likes to fade. But when he's doing the catch and shoot, it's a straight up shot and it looks so fluid and so smooth and so easy. The pull-ups, we saw him do one yesterday. That wasn't a three-pointer. He hit him with the step back, toe was on the line, shot that nice pull-up, went in for two. But in general, he does not shoot a high percentage on those pull-up threes, man. And the catch and shoot, like when you're shooting damn near 44%, that needs to be utilized and incorporated in your offense much, much more. It has to be. Joey, show me the second one, please. The second one I went and looked at the dribbles. Went and looked at his dribbles and what he shoots on that percentage when he's taking. You see 0, you see 1, you see 2, you see 3 to 6, you see 7+. Now, to be fair, the 7+, he does the least. All right. He does that the least, to be fair. It's the worst, but he does that one the absolute least. The 0 dribbles is the one he does the most, I believe, is 3.7 attempts. But the problem is the one tied for second is the 3 to 6 dribbles. Like, that's the problem for me. It's the 3 to 6, and he's shooting 31% on that. So clearly he is better when he's not dribbling or he just takes one. I will take that 38% every single day. I will take that. But I need them, team Zach or whoever, to see this kind of thing and say, maybe he's a little bit better when he is just not dribbling the basketball. Maybe we should run him off a few more screens, a la a guy like Steph Curry or whoever shooter you want to name, and allow Zach to get open on these shots. On the baseline is where he always was shooting very well from three, from over there too, where he would just post up there and then the guys would find him that way. But he needs more catch and shoot. That's what he needs. He needs more catch and shoot, ladies and gentlemen. And you see the numbers right there, man. The 0 dribbles with 42%. It's laughable. And that's why I wanted to show it, because it's laughable for me. It's not even really close. You know what I mean? That it shouldn't be more catch and shoot from Zach LaVine, and it shouldn't be dribble, shoot. No, I need him to get the ball, square up, go up, cash money. We get more of that, you'll see better 3-point percentage and attempts from the Chicago Bulls.
Mark, where do you land on all this?
Disagree. I definitely don't disagree, and I don't think anyone in the world does disagree with you, Dave. And I would love to see Zach shoot more threes. He's one of the best pure shooters in the NBA, whether you're talking from 2-point line, 3-point line, whatever the situation. Just his stroke more generally, just watching it is art almost. So it's a beautiful looking jump shot, and he's super efficient at it. So I think everything you noted there is correct. I'd love to see him shooting more threes. I probably want him shooting as many threes as he does twos. To be honest with you, there are times when he does settle for that mid-range shot where I'm like, okay, well, could this not be a three? Because you're shooting like mid 30% from the mid-range, where on corner threes, for example, you're shooting 39%. Threes more generally, you're shooting 37%. As you noted, Dave, when he's catching and shooting, it's above 40%. So he's a lethal shooter. Completely agree. But you sort of touched on it, and this is where I come back to it. Like, how much of this is a product of Zach, the player, the coaching that is being implemented, or the structure of the offense, or the structure of the roster around him? Like, what percentage is all of this sort of culminating towards? I guess that's the interesting part, like the part that I always try to work out. Like, all right, is this like 50% on Zach, for example? Like, maybe this is just a mentality thing where he wants to get his into that mid-range. Dave, you mentioned like he likes to step back and fade away. Like, is that just a thing like he likes doing because the guys he idolized growing up, that was the thing they liked doing? In terms of Billy's offense, is he want him getting off ball more, shooting more threes, those sorts of things? I think he does, but how much can he get that happening with if Zach doesn't necessarily want to do that or every single time or to the rate that maybe we want him to? And then, like I come back to, like, given the roster construction, the fact that DeMar and Zach are really the only two guys who can get the ball off the bounce and do something off the bounce, how many opportunities are there, I suppose, for him to be off ball in these sort of catch and shoot scenarios? It could probably only really happen when he and DeMar are on the court together, because when one of them, like if DeMar's off the court, for example, more often than not, you would assume that Zach's going to have the ball in his hands. So it's a product of probably all those three avenues, and just sort of trying to discern where it all sort of sits and how much is attributed to where. I think that's the interesting part. But I completely fundamentally agree with everything you've noted. I would love to see him shoot more threes. Every time he does get a catch and shoot three, particularly in the corner, I just assume it's going in, because more often than not that it does. So completely agree with your thesis, Dave. But I'm just wondering how applicable, or how we can apply it more, I guess. That's the interesting part to me.
That is the question, correct.
Getting some of our viewers in here with some comments that apply to this conversation. Review says Zach, but not because of Zach. High-level talent indeed, but not, quote, the guy. Meanwhile, our guy saying, I think Zach's making better decisions within the offense. He's either driving to get foul calls or doing a draw and kick. Better awareness of the game moment. His ball handles, though, yikes. I think both of those comments bring up interesting things. The whole win with a guy, but not because of him. I saw Bulls fans talking on Twitter last night about, like, hey, man, here's DeMar king in the fourth and DeMar king of OT. Is it a problem that Zach wasn't involved in this win late in the game? I mean, those people conveniently forgot that Zach LaVine actually hit 2 threes and drove to the basket, draw a foul, and made 2 free throws while the Bulls' fourth quarter comeback. Okay, that happened. Let's not ignore the fact that happened. But is it because of Zach LaVine's shot selection that is an ongoing narrative with Bulls fans about who is the guy on this team? Because people seem obsessed with that idea that DeMar is Batman and Zach is Robin, to borrow a phrase from Mark's best friend Joe. I just don't think that that was a great eye roll. I don't think that people are aware of the fact that Zach is helping the Bulls win when he's playing like Zach. And unfortunately and frustratingly, for the first 20 or so games of the season, Zach wasn't playing like Zach because he was coming back from off-season surgery and trying to play his way back into shape. Obviously, Dave, what you're talking about as far as catch and shoot versus his pull-up numbers off the pull, yes, of course, I agree as well. It's interesting to think about when the Bulls are in these clutch game scenarios and Zach's not involved. Is it because of the ball handling being an issue and turnovers being an issue? But I thought the driving kick he had to an open shooter who then missed was a great driving kick. He hit 2 threes of his own. He drew a foul, got to the free throw line. Zach was involved in the Bulls stealing that game from Milwaukee. Whether or not we're thrilled about how he's shooting off the dribble right now.
Yeah, no. If we're getting into that, there's absolutely no doubt you don't win that game without him. You absolutely don't do it, man. Yeah, Joey, you're stupid. You absolutely don't do it. You don't win that game, guys, without Zach LaVine doing Zach LaVine things. I mean, look at the team this year, man. You touched on it right there. Like, you can say all that stuff about Zach, but when Zach's not playing well, guess what? the team ain't going to be on. You know what I mean? It's just not going to be a thing. It's when Zach LaVine is looking like Zach LaVine that they're a better basketball team because Zach LaVine is really good at basketball. I could care less about a number one option on this damn team. My number one option is win. That's my number one option. I don't give any damn who does what. Okay, if he's hot, roll with it. That's how I feel. I saw Vooch be hot, and they continue to feed him. I saw Zach when he dropped 40. I saw him be hot, and they continue to feed him. When DeMar is doing DeMar shit, you continue to feed him. That's what you do. You always go to the hot hand. That's how it rolls like that. And you continue to do that. And yes, it will work that way for the Chicago Bulls going forward. I don't care if he's second. I don't care if he's first. I care if he wins. So that's what it's all about for me, Mark K. Like, it's really about winning. Because I know one thing Zach LaVine doesn't have on his resume, and that's a long resume of winning. You know what I mean? I don't care if he's number one or number two option. It ain't been winning. And that's all I want it to be for Zach, man. So that's my main thing with him.
Yeah, but like if Zach was the number one option on this team just by proxy of his contract or whatever, because he was here before DeMar or whatever other nonsense people want to say, you know, he has to be Batman or Robin or anyways, I'll leave that alone. But I mean, he would just be miscast in that role. Like Zach isn't a number one option on a team that's trying to win 45, 50 games or whatever it might be, or even more. Like that's just not who he is. Just because he's earning a max contract doesn't mean he has to be a number one option. Just because DeMar is taking more shots or is the number one option, that is not a bad thing. That is actually the right thing. Why is that anything that anyone's whining about? Like it's the right thing. The hierarchy of the offense is correct in that nature, and Zach can be particularly effective in that support role. And I mean, like the Bulls in closing halves, like more recently, they've been running DeMar Zach pick and rolls, and in those plays, essentially Zach is setting the screen and then flaring out to the 3-point line. So in those set pieces, Dave, he's doing exactly what you want, where he's getting out to the 3-point line. That is by design for him to space out, to force the switch to get to the 3-point line, which then allows DeMar to get downhill to get to his mid-range. But like the first option in that set is DeMar, as it should be. Like DeMar has earned that, you know, through the 14 years of his career, but more generally what he's been doing here in Chicago. He's been super efficient in the mid-range. He's been super efficient as a closer. And Zach just generally hasn't been that. And that's the part that doesn't make sense to me. He's miscast if he is the number one option. DeMar is perfectly cast in that option. So I don't understand why people talk about it. I don't understand why people care about it. It's perfectly aligned. The only reason people talk about it is just to drum up some nonsense or trying to, you know, force division amongst the team. When, you know, we saw it when DeMar hit that game winner against the Knicks. Like, who was one of the first guys to get there around him? It was Zach. Zach was happy for his dude in that specific moment. So would Zach like more opportunities to shoot the ball? Yeah. So would every freaking NBA player who's ever played the game. But he's not going to be unhappy when his guys, you know, taking those crucial shots in those moments and draining shots. So it's all a bunch of nonsense. It's perfectly fine the way things are set up, and the hierarchy is set up more perfectly. But back to your point, David, and now it's just an understanding of, all right, how do we redistribute some of Zach's shots? Do we do away with some of these mid-range shots to get him some of these 3-point shots? He's been doing really good at getting to the rim, actually. Like he's actually 68% at the rim right now in terms of finishing. Mm-hmm. It was down below 60% earlier in the season. So as you noted, Matt, like Zach's getting back to it now. He's 68% at the rim. His career high is 69%, which was last season. So he's getting back to who he was. His knee's coming around. He's perfectly fine as the number 2 option. People banging on it about it are just wrong. I'll say it like that. I've got other thoughts, but I'll just say they're wrong.
Yeah, speaking of thoughts and opinions that are wrong, Eric in the comments saying, no, that's not a max contract. That's a super max deal. At least in my opinion, anything over 170 is super max level. Okay, well,
I mean, it's actually wrong.
Congratulations on having an opinion that is based in being factually incorrect. If you want to keep having that opinion, Eric, you go right ahead. But exactly what our guy McBaconator said, and as well, Mark, just because people are on a max contract doesn't mean they have to be your number one. They need help win. And Eric, it's a max deal. It is not a super max deal. Those are two differently defined things as far as NBA contracts and the CBA are concerned. Zach LaVine was not an all-NBA player last season, therefore did not qualify for the thing that is called a super max contract. He just got a regular max contract. If you want to have an opinion that is just you not understanding how NBA contracts work, then go right ahead. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, for fuck's sake.
Dude, he's like the 16th highest paid player in the NBA right now. Like that's right where Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday are. You know what I mean? Like he's right. It's not a super max. Like, okay, all right. I'm sorry. That was no. Okay, go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
Nah, look, I was just going to say the same thing. I mean, and I've written about this more recently when I revisited the Zach LaVine contract and wanted to touch on that again because you guys, we were all proponents of giving Zach the max in the offseason. I wanted to take a look at it again 5-6 months later down the track. I'm still of the opinion that it was the right decision for a number of different reasons, if for no other reason that NBA economics just dictate that. And Eric's sort of making a point here that I noted in that post that whatever we think a max deal should be or who should be on a max deal is irrelevant. It doesn't mean shit. I'm sorry to say that, Eric. I'm sorry to say that to me, who sometimes, raises my eyebrows at some of the contracts that are sent out to players. Like, it doesn't matter what we think. All we have to do is be objective about it. Look around the league and see who else is earning dollars. And if Zach's contemporaries, guys who are similar players, are earning max dollars, if Devin Booker's going to be given a 4-year, $200 million super max extension, the same amount of dollars that Zach got over 5 years, let alone 4 years, then we just have to think about it through what is actually happening around the NBA. And we don't do that enough, maybe because we're so Bulls focused. So I get it, but the whole contract thing's perfectly reasonable. But we've gone off on a tangent here, I feel.
No, one more thing. Like wait till the money goes
East
up
right now.
Wait till that money goes up next year. Is all I'm saying. And then look at Zach LaVine's contract. Just wait till it goes. It's gonna be like when he got that last contract, man. Do you remember how pissed people were when he got that last contract? $20 million. Get the fuck out of here. We're like, wait till the money goes up. This is going to look like one of the best contracts in the league. And as soon as that money went up, they're like, man, he's kind of underpaid, isn't he, for what he's getting? It's going to be the same thing. It's going to be the same. All right.
There's another person in this conversation where we started on this conversation anyway about Zach and his shooting and where he's doing his shooting from. And that's Billy Donovan. And I want to talk a little bit more about what Billy might do as far as offensive scheme to try and get Zach some more of the good shots as opposed to the lesser quality shots. So we'll do that after the break. While we're telling y'all how to save some money and get some awesome products, hit that thumbs up button if you're watching along with us live on YouTube, or if you're catching us after the fact on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. Big Dave.
They never understood why sunglasses were so expensive, y'all. They never understood it. They didn't get it. Why sunglasses were so damn expensive. So you know what? They got on a boat and they sailed across the seas because they set out to change it. And that is Shady Rays. Shady Rays said, we will offer you beautiful people out there, those premium polarized shades featuring that world-class optical clarity, sustainable durability, and styles catered to everyone and every lifestyle. Attack. Oh, yes. Ooh, yes. The best part about Shady Rays, y'all, that most insane protection program in all of eyewear that I like to call the Matt Peck Lost and Broken Replacements Plan. That is, if you break those shades doing something like watching a Bulls game or sticking your head off of a mountain and they fall off your face, whatever you like to do. If you do this on day one, Shady Rays will get you a brand new pair, no questions asked. 200,000 5-star reviews lets you know that Shady Rays is doing something right, ladies and gentlemen. So, exclusively for y'all listeners out there, Shady Rays is running that deepest deal of the season. Use that code CHGO for 50% off of 2 or more pairs at shadyrays.com. That is a buy one, a get one free. What they call that, Matt Peck?
BOGO.
That's a BOGO for the Lolo. A 54 for sure. Redeem only at shadyrays.com where you can find all their newest and best shades because the Shady Rays where the rays are just so damn shady.
Today's episode also brought to you guys by ComEd. The ComEd Energy Efficiency Program is committed to helping businesses in the communities they serve manage energy usage and lower energy bills now and into the future. ComEd offers a wide array of incentives on lighting and other efficiency upgrades to commercial, industrial, and public sector customers of all sizes across their territory. Customers can inquire about how to upgrade outdated lighting to energy and money-saving efficient LED lights, learn more about network lighting to operate your lights through your mobile device, and track your facility's energy usage and more. Incentives have recently increased for indoor, outdoor lighting, and lighting controls, making those projects even more cost-effective than before. Saving energy, saving money. Who doesn't want that? So here's what you do. Visit ComEd.com/powering bits, BIZ, to start saving money and energy. To start a project, you can contact them at 1-855-433-2700. That's 1-855-433-2700. For more information, email businessee@comed.com or publicsectoree@comed.com. So, gentlemen, do we think that there's something Billy could and should be doing to get Zach LaVine more catch and shoot opportunities in this Bulls half-court offense? Because we see him get those opportunities sometimes. I believe, Dave, when you looked up those numbers, it said he's averaging maybe 3 of them a game, just over 3 catch and shoot threes a game. How do we get that trend closer to 5 or 6 catch and shoot threes as opposed to 3 of them and 3 or 4 pull up off the dribble kind of catch and shoot threes? Because the other element to that is this team that doesn't have a point guard, and Zach and DeMar being primary ball handlers. Do we want to get Io more involved, or Dragic, or whoever as more of a point guard to facilitate and let Zach have these plays run for him, but where he is having a play made for him off the ball? Because it seems like there is an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, for me, it's I'd like to see him with Dragic and try that a little more, because Dragic, is more of that traditional kind of point guard. Can come off that pick and roll and, maybe find that open man out on the perimeter when the defense kind of collapses on him, because he hits you with that fake. He can hit you with that fadeaway, which would kind of draw in the defender at the same time. He could do those kind of things. But also, when I think of it, I think of Alex Caruso at the same time. And when I think of Caruso, I think of him getting that ball and being the one swinging it, swinging that ball to Zach in the corner, or swinging that ball to Zach at the elbow for the 3 like that, because he can run the offense as well. Like Marquet always points out how much better they are running their offense when Caruso is in the game, period, point blank. So I just want to see more options with that, and with Zach being the primary guy on the floor. I don't know if it would be better or worse with DeMar on the floor. I just know what it looks like now with DeMar on the floor and them doing it. And he doesn't get, as many opportunities. And I'm not saying it's DeMar's fault or anything like that. I'm just talking about what it looks like. So I'd like to see it where he gets those opportunities where Zach is basically the primary guy, and the point guards and the guards in the ball is just, it has to move as well. Like, and Zach can't get it and then, kind of go to sleep with the ball. You know what I mean? Like, it gets to dribbling around, and doing those Zach LaVine things that I cannot stand. I need him to be constantly moving on some of those plays as well, because that is how those shooters get open as well. The constant movement. If the ball is movement, Zach has to be moving as well, coming off of those screens. So you want Drummond in there, who's a great screen setter as well. Patrick Williams, who sets those screens, who refs are also looking at a little bit more now when he's setting those screens, but he's a big body that you want in there setting those screens. So I would like to see those kind of lineups in there, man, to try anything, because you can't have something that works this well and do it so few times. Like, we got to figure something out, Marquet, where they can get the ball. And maybe you can look at it a little more differently, because you break the X's and O's down a little bit better. So, but that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see, either Dragic or Caruso be those guys on the floor setting and running the offense, and Zach, the guy who's moving around, catching those screens, catching that extra screen, getting that pass, and shooting, because he can shoot from anywhere. He can be logo LaVine. We've seen it happen. He can shoot from anywhere, man. But yeah, I just want those things to go down.
Yeah, I think I definitely, again, I agree completely with you, Dirk. The point that I want to make is, like, there's obviously different types of catch and shoots as well. Like, there's the movement catch and shoots. So I think that is something that Billy could do more and Zach could do more, getting running around, numerous screens the way the Kings sort of use Kevin Huerter, for example. AK in the comments before, I think mentioned like Ray Allen, Reggie Miller, like your classic movement type shooters. Rip Hamilton as well was a guy who just constantly moved, got to the mid range, not necessarily three, but those dudes were constantly moving to get to their shot. And that's one aspect, obviously. And then there's just the catch and shoot where Zach's not necessarily having to move, but someone else has broken down the defense. They've got into middle. Zach's guys had to help down into middle, and then the balls come back out to him. He's spotting up, and obviously, he's shooting that shot. So there's multiple ways we can look at this. But in terms of movement shooting, like this is the part where I find difficult to answer, and I don't want to blame one single person, because this is one of those things where I don't think we can answer ourselves without knowing what's actually happening in the background, if we're being fair and objective about it. And the reason I say that is, how much is this on Billy's, system, philosophy, the way he wants his guys playing within the offense, or how much is this just who Zach is? Does he not want to move off ball in the same way that Richard Hamilton did, or Ray Allen did, or Kevin Huerter? Insert whoever that type of player is. No one moves like Steph Curry, because it's freaking hard to do. Like to have that stamina is one thing. So maybe Zach just can't do that because his athletic base or his conditioning isn't at that level. I assume it is because he's a super athlete, but maybe it's not. Or maybe he just doesn't want to move like that. I don't know. Maybe he wants to get on ball. Maybe his instinct is just to, as soon as he gets the ball on the catch, to put it on the floor and have a few pound drills to survey the floor. Like that would be my assumption, that is his natural tendency, and that's why we don't necessarily see him in that sort of that role moving like we want him to. But again, it's an assumption. But maybe it is on Billy too. Like maybe they could do more of that. And we go back to the Athletic article from a week ago where it sort of vaguely referenced that Zach and the Bulls and maybe Zach and the coaches weren't necessarily aligned. Like, is one of the things that they're not aligned on, like how he's being used. Maybe he actually wants to be in these situations more where he is moving off the ball and running off the ball in a way like Eric's in the comments here saying, maybe he wants to be like a Devin Booker or a Bradley Beal or a Kobe Bryant or someone like that who's sort of on ball and doesn't necessarily want to be working off ball like that, like in a more quote unquote role guy sort of way. I don't know what the answer is. I think ideally, Dave, I completely agree with you. I'd love to see him moving off the ball like that. But I just don't know if it's in him to do that. But coming back to the other catch and shoot option, like that's where it becomes more roster based, because Matt, you referenced before, like this team doesn't necessarily have a lot of point guard options, or at least don't have options who can necessarily get downhill, break down a defense, run pick and roll, create advantages, and get the ball out to shooters who ideally Zach would be one of those shooters. So it really depends on what type of catch and shoot we're talking about. But if we're talking about Zach as a movement shooter, I think every single person agrees with that. I just don't know if it's something that Zach wants to do. That's part of it. And maybe another product of it is maybe just he hasn't been able to do it in Chicago just because of our personnel and what's been happening over the years.
Marquez, let me ask you a question.
Yep.
Because when you said that about someone breaking down the defense and obviously kicking it out to the open shooter and things like that, the first person I thought of was Lonzo Ball. How is there a way that you can incorporate how that was working for the Bulls with Zach LaVine? How can Zach be in that role that Lonzo was in? Because Lonzo didn't have any problem being over for that catch and shoot, because obviously the defense was being broken down. The ball was swinging over to him, and he was just wide open for the three. How can you incorporate that with Zach and not in place of Lonzo?
Yeah, well, so for Lonzo, he had the benefit of being out there with Zach and DeMar. So that's helpful, obviously. Like he's got two guys on ball, two of the best isolation scorers in basketball, two, guys that can drop 25, 30 on anyone's head any given night. Sure. So the fact that they just force so much defensive attention, naturally Lonzo is going to be open from that point of view. So how can Zach be in that role? Well, you need another guard out there with DeMar to sort of be that on-ball creator. And you mentioned it, Dave, like maybe you need more Dragic out there. But I mean, that's the way the Bulls go about it based on who they have on the rosters. Dragic is a really good pick and roll creator. Maybe you have him and DeMar being your on-ball guys. And if Zach is willing, then have him sort of act as that third piece. Maybe when I say third piece, I mean like on-ball reps on, the amount of touches I get on an offense. I might be finishing the play, but maybe I'm not creating the play. So in that instance, he's the tertiary creator. So for Zach to be in that Lonzo role, in the sense that I'm shooting 7-8 threes and they're mostly coming off catch and shoot, you need another guy on the court along with DeMar who can create. It has to be Dragic in that situation because I have more confidence in him doing that than Io or Caruso or Kobe. But unfortunately, Dragic is 36. He has his own limitations. Playing him, forces other issues as well. So I think that's the problem for the Bulls. Like their point guard rotation can be strong, but at any given moment, it can be, I guess, not strong as well. It can be problematic. So if Dragic doesn't have it all of a sudden, then you've got Io out there with Zach and DeMar. And if Io is not necessarily confident enough to do things off the bounce, then unfortunately Zach has to go back into that role where he's back on ball, and this movement type shooter that we're sort of talking about, that specific role sort of disappears, unfortunately.
Richard in the comments asking, can we agree that Zach is basically Tyler Hero if he's just catch and shoot? I don't know how this Tyler Hero comp came up. I saw it earlier in the comments as well. Well, first of all, I mean, Tyler Hero isn't on the verge of averaging 25 and 5 times for the third consecutive season right now. The brakes on that garbage. But hypothetically speaking, if you shoot guy, then I think it's a weak comparison. But that's not, I don't think, what we're suggesting here. We don't want to turn Zach into a only catch and shoot guy offensively. Yeah. We're just talking about bumping the frequency of his catch and shoot opportunities up and shaving off or shaving down some of his 3-point attempts off the dribble. Because we have seen Zach be able to be a 3-level scorer in the NBA. He's finishing better at the rim now in this recent stretch of games, as Mark pointed out. Somebody else in the comments pointed out that in this recent stretch of games, his assists are up over 5 per game. His turnovers are down. We talked about him driving and kicking in that win against the Bucks last night. He is a multifaceted offensive weapon. We're not talking about turning him into a just catch and shoot guy, because this team does need Zach to facilitate sometimes, despite the ball handling issues that we know Zach has and the turnover, tendencies that we know Zach has. And we need him to attack the rim, and we need him to shoot threes, and we need him to shoot a variety of threes. No one is asking him to just be a guy who runs around screens all night and catching and shooting, because he can do more than that for this team, and he needs to do more than that for this team.
Yeah, and look, I've got the numbers in front of me. Sorry, Dave. I just in terms of like shot frequency, in terms of where it's coming on the court, like 32% of his shots are at rim, 29% of his shots are at mid-range, and 38% of his shots are threes. So what we're effectively saying here is, can that 29 number, the 29% at mid-range, can that maybe trickle down to 20% as an example? Then what do you do with that remaining 9%? Obviously, you want that going into shots at the rim, because as I mentioned before, Zach's shooting 68% at the rim. That's really nice. And to your point, Dave, as you've been illustrating here, whatever's left over of that 9%, can we get some more of that at the 3-point line? So rather than taking 30% of your offense from 3, can that be 45%, for example? And of that 45%, can we have more of that big catch and shoots? So that's what we're effectively saying. We're not saying we want Zach to shoot all of his attempts from 3 and all of them be catch and shoots like some specialized role guy as if he's Kyle Korver. That's clearly not what we're saying. What we're trying to say is, do the things you're better at, which is getting at the rim, where you're shooting almost 70%, and shoot more threes, which you're really good at. But by the way, you're freaking awesome at catch and shoot threes. Can you do that more often? That's ultimately what we're saying, and it's just about how that happens. So yeah, we're definitely not saying turn Zach LaVine into Tyler Hero or Kevin Huerter, or insert whoever movement shooter you want. All we're saying is, can he implement some of their tendencies into his game, not become those specific guys?
Yeah, when you want to be better, you see you do something that's really, really good, you're like, yeah, I'd like you to do more of that. That doesn't mean I'm trying to turn you, into a pure 3-point shooter or a pure dunker or whatever. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to turn you. I'm just trying to add that more to your game, because obviously the Bulls are lacking hard in 3-point shooting. So why not give a guy who is clearly good at it, doing a catch and shoot, get him more opportunities to do it, and not just say, like you said, turn him into Tyler Hero, Reggie Miller, all those guys like that. No, give him more things added to his game, which will in turn make him a much better player. That is what you do in the NBA. You add stuff to your game, man. So I just want something added more for Zach LaVine's game to elevate more, which in turn will elevate the Bulls.
All right, let's take another quick break here. When we come back on the other side of the break, we are going to shift gears and have a conversation about this Bulls team beating all the good teams, or not all, but beating lots of good teams and losing to most of the bad teams. What the heck's going on there? Big Dave, tell the fine folks listening about Pins and Aces and the great deals on the great merch.
You know, if Will the Goat Gottlieb was here, I would be talking to him about Pins and Aces and golf apparel because he is the Tiger Woods of the CHGO
He gets back
Bulls.
tomorrow.
He'll be back very soon. Oh, can't wait. But he'd be the one I'd be talking about because he is the one that gets out there on links and does his thing. Yeah, and now since he does that, I want him to look good doing it, y'all. And that's where he goes to Pins and Aces, the official golf apparel partner of CHGO. They are family-owned golf and apparel business. They make those amazing polos, those hats, those golf bags, and for when Matt Peck wants to tag along, that beer sleeve, the innovative product that allows you to store 7 of them things right inside your golf bag and keep the drinks frosty cold the entire round. So check pinsandaces.com, use that code CHGO to receive 15% off your first order and get yourself some free shipping while you're at it. That is pinsandaces.com, because if you look good, you play good. And if you play good, it's all good. Pins and Aces. Let's go, GOAT.
GOAT! Today's episode also brought to you all by our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook. When I throw down on NBA action, it's got to be with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official betting partner of the NBA and our official betting partner at CHGO. New customers, when they sign up, can bet just $5 on any NBA money line of any NBA game. And if your team wins that money line bet, you will get $150 in free bets. Plus, everyone can combine multiple bets for a bigger payout with those DraftKings stepped-up same-game parlays. Bulls have 2 games this weekend, Friday night, Saturday night, back-to-back. Pistons and Cavs. Put some parlays in there. Have some fun and make some money. DeMar points, assists, IO, steals, or made threes, whatever you want. Put it all together for bigger odds and bigger payouts. Because we were off Tuesday, today is our DraftKings pick of the weekday. I'm looking at tonight's action in the NBA, and I see the Grizzlies on the road taking on the, let's be honest, the wilting Toronto Raptors. Grizzlies are road favorites, but only by 3. Grizzlies -3 right now, -110. I like the Grizzlies to cover that fairly easily. And if you are so bold, I might even advise pushing that, setting your own line for the Grizzlies to cover -4.5 against the Raptors tonight. That gets you plus money at +110. That is my DraftKings pick of the week. Going with Big Dave's guy, Ja, and the Grizz on the road. One more time, don't forget to use that promo code CHGO when you sign up at DraftKings Sportsbook. All right, guys. The Bulls. Joey, can we take a look at the Bulls record real quick, broken down at who they're playing? So here you go. Top 3 teams in the East, that would be Boston, Brooklyn, Milwaukee. The Bulls are 5-1 against those teams. If you want to lump in the 6th-seeded Miami Heat currently, that's 7-1. Above 500 teams, at or above 500 teams across all NBA competition for the Bulls thus far this season, they are right there at 500 themselves. 11 wins, 11 losses. And then there you see, when the Bulls have played teams that are currently below 500, they are 4-8 against those teams. Gentlemen, I know we touched on it a little bit after the Rockets loss and then the Bucks win, which is now Bulls fans expecting the unexpected based on the level of quality we think this Bulls team is. Last season, the Bulls were mediocre, beat up on the bad teams, couldn't beat the good teams. This season, it's flipped, and I don't understand it, and it's frustrating as hell. What do you guys think about this trend, and do you think it's changeable for the back half of the season?
Yeah, go ahead, Marquez.
Well, I'm equally as frustrated. It's annoying because as everyone has noted, as you just noted, as we routinely say on this podcast, This team couldn't beat good teams last year. That was an issue. They've seemingly fixed that now. Now they can't beat shitty teams. It's annoying. Like it's really frustrating. And like particularly when you think about the losses, like who they've come to and how they've happened. Like even if Vooch just hits his free throws against the Magic, then obviously that's a W. If the Bulls just don't lay an absolute egg to the Rockets and win that game, the game they should have won, then that's a W. If they don't play terribly against the Spurs and Wizards earlier in the season, now granted the Spurs and Wizards were playing a lot better at that point in time. They're not as bad as what they are now, but nonetheless, they should have been wins based on the expected goals of all these teams. But this is the part that frustrates me. Like even if they just play it at a mid-level, standard against those teams, they're W's. And if they are, this team is like, okay, they're only a couple games above 500. Maybe people are still not, pleased in watching that type of basketball, or not happy watching the team that ultimately probably won't win a title. Maybe those thoughts are still there, but maybe the volume of those thoughts are turned down a bit. But nonetheless, like to me, it's just so much missed opportunities this season thus far. And look, this came to head obviously against the Rockets. Like, is this just an application issue? Like, do these guys, for whatever reason, think that they can just roll up and beat the Houston Rockets, the San Antonio Spurs, the Orlando Magic, whoever it is? Like, it kind of feels like they think they've done something in this league as a team. Like, it feels like they were the Lakers of the three-peat era Lakers, for example, who could just roll up and just play whoever they want. Didn't care if they win or lose. Come playoff time, like they would come out and get things sorted. Hell, maybe they think that they're the '96 Bulls for some reason. But I just get that vibe from them that they feel like they've done something last season to earn the fact that they can just roll up and not necessarily apply themselves, go balls to the wall for 48 minutes. And that's frustrating because a lot of their identity from last season was built around playing that type of manic style basketball where irrespective of who they were playing, they were going to beat up on pit teams, which is why they were so good against, poorer teams last season, where it just feels like for whatever reason, they feel like they can chill on that identity now and they can just roll out there and beat a team like the Rockets, which is just stupid thinking because the league hasn't been, I guess there hasn't been more parity in the league for a number of years. So that's just the frustrating part. Like, I just had a feeling yesterday that they were going to beat the Bucks because this is what they've been doing all season. They're 4-1 against the Celtics and Bucks, but they're 1-4 against the Rockets, Magic, Hornets, Spurs, and Thunder, which just makes no sense at all. Like how you as a team, I mean, it makes perfect sense because this is who the team has been all season. But then it also makes no sense because how do you take these teams so like with no respect almost? And like that's the frustrating thing. Like just play good defense, respect your opponent, and you're actually going to have a winning record right now. We wouldn't be talking about blowing up this whole damn thing. So a lot of it's controllable, and that's the frustrating thing. They just haven't controlled what they can completely control.
Here's some good and bad news, depending on how you want to take it. The Bulls going forward have the second easiest schedule in the NBA. So however you want to take that. Is that good news? Maybe. Is it bad news? Maybe. Depending, just showing they I think you hit on what I wanted to say, Mark K, which is they play with an attitude that they haven't earned. And they play with a sense of, oh man, we can just come back and do that. I'm like, that's the attitude of like championship winning teams. Like when we were watching that Rockets game and the Rockets got off to that start, Matt, and I told you, I was like, well, they're going to come back. They're going to let them back in the game because they're the Rockets. And yes, that's what happened. They came back and they let them back in the game. But then the Bulls forgot to look at the clock and realize it was the third quarter when they got the lead because it's like they packed it in after they were like, all right, we're good. We're done. Let's just coast here from now on. Wasn't going to be like that. And they have to understand every single night is going to be that kind of fight. It hasn't clicked for them yet. In several of these games, they have come out against these lesser teams. These lesser teams have just jumped on them from the beginning. They've seen the good teams jump on them, and for some reason, they're able to pick it back up, and get back in there and do that thing correctly. But against these lesser teams, like you said, the Rockets, the Magic, teams like that, they get off to these starts and they just think these teams are going away, and they're just going to give it back to them and they're going to, oh man, we're playing the Bulls. Oh no, like them kids don't remember Jordan. You know what I'm saying? They don't remember Pippen. You can't, there is no imposing your will on this team, on these young teams, because you haven't earned the will to impose yet. You haven't gotten to that level yet. You still have got to earn it game after game. They're not looking at the contract saying Zach LaVine signed a max deal. Oh, man, like that, it's not intimidating. You know what I'm saying? They just know DeMar DeRozan is going to do his thing, and everybody else they can probably, compete with. Young team who doesn't know better is very scary. People with nothing to lose is always a scary thing. The Bulls have to come in with that same mindset every game, not just against the good teams, but against these bad ones as well, man.
Big Dave, I said it to you last night. Yes. Sorry, this logo is totally blocking my, everything I've got going on here.
Beautiful face.
Not much.
I'm gonna ignore that comment. I said it to you last night, but it feels like that. I didn't know how to word it exactly on Twitter, but if every night it feels like there's a moment where the Bulls are playing in a pickup game and the other team just called out, oh yeah, we're at 19, by the way. Like, and we're playing up to 21. The Bulls are like, shit, we gotta, we gotta string some stops together. Like, and it's frustrating as hell. Like, can we come out from the beginning with a level of seriousness? And that's, like, I think Big Dave mentioned it very briefly the other night. I know we're going to hit on Billy in a little bit. I think there's a lot that you can't point the finger at for Billy, but I do think that as a coach, I mean, listen, these guys are professional players. They've got to get up themselves to get, to want to win the game, but Billy's got to get them, ready to go. And so that's what's just frustrating watching them have these moments every night. And it's been all season.
Yeah. Thank you, Joseph.
You're welcome, Dave.
Can we take a look at the from Billy about this issue his team has? Because I thought it was interesting. This is via Casey Johnson, his post-game write-up last night. We talked a lot about going into training camp about playing against the best teams. I think we've competed well against those teams, but some of these other games, I think we haven't performed and competed and played level we have against some of those playoff teams. It's good to see us compete. We've got to play like that all the time. We just do. We all have to hold each other to that standard. And his two leaders on this team, DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine, echoed those similar sentiments after the game. And Big Dave, it seemed like you and I maybe disagreed a little bit when we first brought this up, I think in pregame last night, about Billy taking responsibility for that after the Rockets game. Whose responsibility is it to not dig yourself a 10-0 hole against a team that has the fewest road wins in the league playing on your home floor, and then also a giganticer hole later on in the first quarter because you overlooked them? Okay, yes, Billy has certain things on his checklist that he needs to make his team and his players aware of before the ref throws that ball up at the beginning of each game. To me, that is not something that an NBA coach has to do, is say, hey, guys, don't overlook this team. Because, every game matters. Every opportunity to get a win matters. But these words from Billy and the similar words from DeMar and Zach are like, well, yeah, we just got to play that way all the time. So why don't you? That's the infuriating part, I think.
See, and the reason I disagree with that, Matt, is because to say that would be to say everybody has that same mindset. That would be to say that common sense is common, and it's not. Some people have to be pushed and told those things all the time. We can talk about Patrick Williams all day long. You know what I'm saying? Like, he has to be told things that normal people don't have to be told to do. Like that's just what it is. You can't go in assuming they already know just because Zach and DeMar know, just because Vooch knows. Well, maybe Io ain't got it. You know what I'm saying? Maybe Patrick ain't got it. Maybe Dragic is chilling because he played too much last night and he's trying to relax against this lesser team right here. That's on Billy. Like, he's got to have those guys ready to play. Like, and that's why I mentioned Tibbs to you. Like, the one thing about Tibbs, however you felt about him, you were ready to play every night. It didn't matter. It didn't matter who he put out there on the floor. They were ready to play every single night. It was going to be a dogfight. That's all you ever heard from the opposing teams. Oh, man, it's going to be a dogfight going and playing against the Bulls. It didn't matter. They were going to be ready to play. It didn't matter if they were playing the Jamico Saints or if they were playing the Lakers from the 80s. It was going to be ready to play every single night. Now, all of that is on Billy. Definitely, you have to – some of that is definitely on the players for sure. No question about it. They've got to be prepared themselves to come out there and not be embarrassed, because they're the ones who are going to be embarrassed, not Billy. But he's got to have those guys ready to play, man, every single night. And he said it in that quote right there, man. You just said it. We talked a lot about beating those good teams. We talked a lot about that. He didn't discuss that. He said we talked a lot about just beating teams in general, because in his head, he's like, well, I ain't got to tell you to beat these lesser teams.
Right.
Well, yeah,
that makes more sense as a goal to set for yourself after a season in which you did beat up the bad teams and you couldn't beat the good ones. So, hey, training camp, here we go. We're going to focus on beating good teams.
Mm-hmm. Common sense, right?
Let's also keep beating the teams that are less talented than we are.
See, that also part.
That
little detail. That one right there, man. That one right there. Some people need to have that stuff. You know what I mean? Everybody isn't a self-starter. Everybody isn't just completely, totally motivated on those things. It has to be like that. You have to get on everybody all the time sometimes, especially now. You see the record. It's showing you got to get on their ass. I hope he gets all in their ass for this Detroit Pistons game, man. Like, I hope he tells them, like, it's game 7 of the fucking finals. Like, they got to win this game, man. Like, going in. They have to. They got to win this game.
I think you're both right. I probably lean more with Peck here than you, Dave, but I think what you're both saying, there's elements of truth in both things. And this is a thing that I think we more generally get wrong. And by we, I mean every single human alive. There can be multiple truths at the same time. So whilst I agree that maybe at sometimes, like, Billy needs to maybe read the room. Maybe his guys just mentally exhausting themselves in the previous game. Maybe they're just not on it the next game for whatever reason, even though they should be. You're playing a team like the Rockets, who are okay. They're at the bottom of the West. More recently, they have been better, but nonetheless, you're a team who should beat this team, who's traveling, who's 3-13 on the road. Like, you should beat them. Like, you should inherently know that. But sometimes, for whatever reason, people just don't know that. Maybe it's not a whole thing. Maybe it's just not a person's personality all the time, but maybe that needs to be reinforced in a specific moment. But I do agree with Matt that it is absolutely ridiculous that sometimes these things need to be reinforced. So I think you're both right, ultimately. But I guess the one thing I would say here, and coming back to, like, player tendencies and trying to, again, it's hard for us to completely know these things. We're obviously looking at it from afar. And similarly to how we were talking about Zach and whether he wants to move off ball and play the way, like, the way we'd hoped he could play, maybe more of those catch and shoot roles. Like, maybe it's just not the tendency of these guys to be like that every single time. And like Dave, for example, like those Tibbs teams, Tibbs had those dudes prepared every single time, and he would get on them and prepare them in that such way. But at the same time, he was fortunate to have guys who are absolute dogs like Joakim Noah, Derrick Rose, Lil Deng, go through the whole freaking roster. Taj Gibson, they all wanted to play like that. They were bred that way, those guys. So, you know, Tibbs can say all the right things, but if he has a set of guys like he had maybe in his early days in Minnesota, like around Carl Towns and, you know, Andrew Wiggins or whoever it might be, who just don't have that natural tendency to play that way in them, you're going to get spotty results, I suppose. So maybe the Bulls are very similar in this way, whereby, you know, Vooch, DeMar, Zach, you'll see them on occasions bring it where they're down and they get back into games. Like we saw it against the Bucks yesterday. Like DeMar willed the team to that win on both ends of the ball. One of the earlier wins that they had against the Celtics, the Bulls were down big, but they came back and with resolve and showed that resolve to get back in the game. And like you see it in those instances, but then you see them get down big to the Houston Rockets or the Atlanta Magic or whoever it might be. And then you're just wondering, why are we even watching the same team? So I think a lot of that comes back just down to like the natural tendencies of this team and the fact that they don't really have that rah-rah guy. They don't have that in their coach. Billy's not that type of coach, but they don't also have sort of personnel on the court as well, which is maybe a flaw of the roster. Maybe like, and we've spoken about this before, like they need their Joakim, they need their Draymond, they need someone to get on their ass. That extension of the coach. They need that freaking goon.
Yes,
they need that goon. So maybe that's something AK needs to go and find. That type of guy. But I think it's all part of it, I guess, is my point. Like it's not one thing, and I think you're both right in this instance.
Yeah, it's all part. You're right. I agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that this team, and we've mentioned it before, has such small room for error as far as the way it's constructed. And so you can't get away with lackadaisical effort nights or even lackadaisical starts and digging and exhausting yourself digging out of a 10 or 15 or 20 point deficit and then try doing that, all that energy, because more often you're facing a team that's hitting more threes than you, or it's more athletic than you, et cetera, et cetera. There's no room for error, and there's especially no room for error when you're not trying, even though you're playing the Rockets tonight, or even though you're playing the Thunder tonight. And as Big Dave, you mentioned, we'll see. We'll see what this trend does, and if it continues, or if they correct it in the back half of the season when they have the second easiest strength of schedule remaining. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? Right now, it looks like a bad thing, the way that the Bulls play going up against lesser competition. Very, very fascinating. And we're going to get another example of this dichotomy back-to-back when we play the Pistons on Friday and then the very, very good Cleveland Cavaliers on Saturday. That's it for today. We are out of time. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already. Make sure you subscribe to our CHGO Sports YouTube channel. And one more shout out to all of you who have for helping us reach that 23,000 subscribers plateau last night during postgame. That was awesome. Appreciate each and every one of you subscribers to our channel out there. In the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter. Mark is MK Hoops. Big Dave is Bow, BAWL Sports. I'm Bulls_Peck. We are CHGO_Bulls. Our pal and producer Joey is at Joey Spathis. Follow him as well. We will be back for pregame tomorrow night. Bulls Pistons tip off 7 p.m. Chicago time. So that means we will get things rolling with pregame at 6:30. For Joey and Mark and Big Dave, Peck saying thanks as always, Bulls Nation. Appreciate you. And we'll talk to you soon. See you, Red. Be good.
Peace.